All right, let me start today with this. What's a superstar? How do we determine or define what a superstar is in the context of all sports? Now, the traditional mindset is, well, if they lead the league in a stat, they're probably a superstar, right? If you lead the league in home runs or player efficiency rating, passer rating, points per game, you're going to be considered a superstar. You're the best in the league in that certain metric. You will get national attention. You will be considered the best of the best. There's no question. Numbers don't lie. Some may also argue that when you're the face of a franchise, you automatically become a superstar, right? You become the best player on that team. Locally and nationally, you will get attention. Zach LaVine's a great example. People consider him a superstar in the NBA just because he's the face of one of the worst teams in the league. Maybe his numbers don't necessarily reflect it, but because he's the face of the Bulls, a storied franchise, of course, he is considered a superstar. Now, there is one other aspect of superstardom that I believe really makes or breaks your case for that status. It's not all about stats. It's not all about being a superstar by default, but it has to do with the postseason. Can you perform when your team really needs you? Can you rise up to the challenge? Are you the guy who's going to take the shot in Game 7 with 10 seconds left? You can't say that about every player in the association. You can't say that about every player who we already deem a superstar in any sport. And people go back and forth on this. A lot of people say, well, he leads the league in a number of stats. He's automatically a superstar. That's fine. But what does he do come playoff time? What does he do when his team really needs him? Not in garbage time. You could score 35 points per game in the regular season, but if you're scoring 17 or 16, if you don't take a shot in the fourth quarter of a game when your team really needs you, are you a superstar? I would tend to say no. Now hold on to that thought for a second. The Rockets and the Bucks have both been eliminated from the NBA playoffs. The Rockets have James Harden. The Bucks have Giannis Antetokounmpo, both of which have now been sent home out of the bubble. Ironically enough, Giannis, days after his team was eliminated, met with Bucks management and talked about the future of the team. He also unfollowed all of his fellow teammates on Instagram. What a surprise. James Harden is done. Russell Westbrook, his supposed wingman, who was supposed to be a 1A, 1B superstar combo, they're done. They're out of the playoffs entirely, and they're back home. So my question is, are James Harden and Giannis Antetokounmpo superstar material? We consider them superstars in today's context of the NBA. But are they really superstars? Let's take a look at it. Giannis and Harden have both never made it to the NBA Finals. They've been around a long time. Harden's been with the Rockets since 2012. And he's never played in an NBA Finals game. He's made it to the Western Conference Finals all day. But there's been an alarming trend with James Harden that may explain why him and the Rockets have never made it. Listen to this stat. In the last 5 years, James Harden is shooting less than 25% from three-point land in the fourth quarter and overtime in playoff games. Harden rises to the occasion. He's scoring 30, 35, 36 points per game. He's an MVP in the regular season, key point. But what happens come postseason time? Crickets. Literally, crickets. And bricks. If you go to Basketball Reference and you scroll all the way down past the regular season glory of James Harden and actually go to his playoff totals, you'd be a bit underwhelmed. He's scoring 23.5 points per game. This past year, he averaged 29.6. The year before was 32. His numbers were down this year. And Russell Westbrook, his supposed wingman, averaged less than 20 points per game. 17.6 to be exact. How do you expect to win a series when James Harden has little energy and Russell Westbrook flat out can't play and can't shoot? How are you supposed to advance past any team in the West specifically when your top two superstars cannot get it done? Westbrook was brought in to give the Rockets a unbelievable twosome in their starting rotation, their starting five. This was supposed to make them a NBA Finals contender. That didn't happen, obviously. And you could argue that the bubble played an impact. You can argue that the time off hurt them. But last time I checked, everyone talked about James Harden being in the best shape of his life during the quarantine. And Westbrook, his wingman, unfortunately got COVID, then had that injury. But if Harden was in such good shape, if Harden was supposed to be the best he's ever been, why didn't he perform? Why, in Game 5 against the Lakers, did he have 0 shot attempts in the fourth quarter? 0. He didn't take one shot for his team when it mattered the most. They were trying to stave off elimination. It was the fourth quarter, and Harden took 0 shots. Nothing. I've heard people say, well, his player efficiency rating was high. He was still distributing the ball. He just wasn't taking the big shot. Big whoop. Who cares? You're a superstar, or you're supposed to be a superstar. When the game is on the line, you should have the ball every single time. You should be taking as many shots as possible and making them. When Michael Jordan played here in Chicago, there was no question as to who had the ball in the fourth quarter. No one said, well, he didn't take that many shots, but it's okay. He distributed them well. He distributed the ball to his teammates. No one cares about assists. No one cares about player efficiency rating when you're trying to stave off elimination against arguably the best team in the NBA. They care about what you did for your team points-wise. They care about the fact that you had the ball, made shots in a critical situation. No one looks at assists and rebounds and steals and blocks. People want to see you score for your team. People want to see, can you rise up to the occasion? Not, he was a good distributor. So I think it's time to rethink what we know James Harden as. Everyone jumps to his defense all the time. He's a superstar. He's a great player. He might be a good talent. He's a star player. He is the face of the Rockets. But he can't rise up in critical situations. He can't come through for his team when they need him the most. He might score 38 points a game in the regular season, but come playoff time, those numbers dip. And in the fourth quarter specifically, when you really need him to make a shot or even take a shot, he's nowhere to be found. James Harden is not a superstar. He's a star player who's never made it to the finals. Case closed. As for Giannis, I know he was hurt. I know he was playing through an injury. But even when he was healthy in games 1 and 2, he did nothing to really help his team. And now we see him meeting with management, unfollowing his teammates. That's disgraceful. He's going to pull a Kevin Durant now. He can't win on his own. He's not a true superstar in Milwaukee. So he has to relocate to Golden State to win a championship? Say what you want. Giannis is not a star or a superstar. He's a very good player who's proven nothing in the postseason. And if he does execute that move, if he does go to California and join Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, and they win 4 or 5 more championships, not one of them will count towards Giannis. In my opinion, I will never consider him a superstar or an NBA great. He's nothing. He's just a very good player who probably will get recognition, will get into the Hall of Fame. They let everybody in the NBA anyways. But that doesn't mean he's a generationally defining talent. That doesn't mean he's the next LeBron James. People like to say that about Giannis too. They like to say he's on that James level when it comes to superstardom. He's not. No one is. And James still isn't even at Michael Jordan level yet. Michael Jordan didn't lose when he went to the finals. He won every time. James lost 5 times. And if he never won a finals yet, I would still say James is not a superstar. I get it. Traditional stats are nice. Being the face of a franchise is nice. It's great. But what about when teams need you the most? What happens then? Are you cowering in a corner and asking somebody else to do your dirty work? Or are you stepping up to the challenge, putting a team and a franchise on your shoulders and winning a Game 7? Or winning an elimination game? Harden doesn't do that. It's been proven. He's never even made it to the finals, let alone won it. And people like to say he's a superstar. He's a great player. He needs to figure that out. He's not a superstar in my book until he gets there, at least, if not wins. And if Giannis chooses to leave Milwaukee, if he claims, I don't like being there anymore, I need to go to a different team, that's code for I couldn't win by myself. Let me go somewhere else and win 4 championships. That's weak. That's not valiant. That's not a good thing. You can't claim he's a superstar and a great player. He's a quitter. He quit on his team. He left his true team to go win a championship. And that could be the best move for his career. He'll make more money. He'll win a couple of rings. He'll have a good time. That's fine. Good for him. But if he expects people to turn around and call him a superstar, if he expects people to say that he's an all-time great, he isn't. If you can't win in Milwaukee with a decent team surrounding him, if you can't at least make it to a finals appearance with that team surrounding you and that coach and Mike Budenholzer, there's a problem. Giannis is not a superstar, and if he does leave, he'll never be a superstar. Let's rethink how we define certain players. Let's not see them lead the league in points and automatically think they're this all-time great. Let's not see them at the top of the PER rankings and say they're the best player in the NBA. What did they do when it mattered? And for Harden and Antetokounmpo, the simple answer is this: nothing. They did nothing when it mattered. They could not rise up to the occasion. They could not put a team on their shoulders and lead them to a finals appearance. They did nothing. And it's safe to say that if that trend continues, they're never going to be superstars. They're never going to be an all-time great. I don't care what the media says. I don't care what ESPN and Fox has to say. about how great they are and how they'll come back next year. I don't want to hear the spin of how if Giannis leaves, he's still a superstar and he'll win more championships. We all know what the truth is. If you can't win on your own, if you can't prove to people that you're not going to compete in the playoffs, then you're not a superstar. It's that simple. So until Harden or Giannis prove to anybody that they can actually get to a finals appearance, if they could win a final series, I'm not sold on them. And you shouldn't be either. More to come here on Sports Talk Chicago. My interview with Todd Furman comes up next, so stay tuned.